let's begin the finals of the first ever National Public Forum debate tournament in the history of Romania with a coin flip. And I will now share my screen. All right. So, which team would like to call the coin?
Can we have tails?
Okay, I will flip the coin now. It's tails. All right, so the coin is tails. This means that Antonia and Cara from MS2 have won the coin flip. So, Antonia and Cara, do you choose your side or your speaking order?
We choose pro.
All right, so MS2 chooses pro. Now, Flavius and Diana, CT1, do you choose to be the first speaking team and get the first word, or the second speaking team and have the last word?
We want to play first.
You want to play first. All right.
Yeah.
So Constanța 1, Flavius and Diana are con first speaking. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And Antonia and Cara from MS2 are pro second speaking. Is that correct? All right. So is everyone ready to begin?
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
And have fun.
Yes, have fun.
All right. So if everyone but the contestants could please mute themselves, if you're not muted already. And let us begin with the constructive 4-minute opening argument speech.
Okay, I'll let you know when I'm setting my timer. I'm ready to go in 3, 2, 1, go. As our reliance on technology is growing, so is our dissatisfaction in the current school system. Thus, it is easy to fall for false links and unrelated examples when it comes to the role that the internet could play in education. We're here to prove why, despite its apparent advantages, online learning has many flaws that reveal themselves upon a closer inspection. As a clarification, we define the benefit of the student as the quality of the education kids receive. Also, the winning side is the one that proves that the current school system, not a reformed one, is better in their medium, be it physical or online. Today, we have two contentions through which we aim to prove that while regular school might not be perfect, online school would be even worse when it comes to kids' education. First of all, let's look at the apparent advantages that the pro team might bring. More money and free time, since kids don't need to waste it on uniform, supplies, or in traffic. And yes, maybe in this perfect world, kids would use this for their further studies or personal development. But in the actual world, the world we live in, we can clearly see how due to social trends and peer pressure, the average kid has no incentive to learn but to scroll to social media or hang out in malls. And while free time activities are to some degree necessary, too much of it is going to negatively impact their study time, as they are constantly distracted and under the impression that they have more free time than they actually do. Would you really trust, for example, a primary school kid to manage their time while their parents and teachers are away? I personally wouldn't. Thus, we see how not only these are not advantages, but they're even harmful. This impact is tied to our other contention, as the lack of supervision is exactly what, for example, allows a kid that would already waste their homework time on video games to do this during class as well, resulting in even less time for learning. Therefore, by switching to online school, we're getting more resources like time or money, but it's clear now why this would have the exact opposite of effect of the one desired. Our second contention is about the average student psychology and why online school would just feed some of their least productive habits. Our first point is about the attitude that already exists among both teachers and students alike, many of which display a mutual lack of interest. Most kids think that little to none of the things taught in school are actually useful, which drives some of them to skip school, learn just the bare minimum in order to pass the grade or be distracting during class. Mutually, how many teachers enjoy talking to a room full of students from which just 1 or 2 are actually paying attention? When moving online, we are offering all these people the chance to essentially skip school without any consequences. Students could just pretend their cameras and microphones don't work and do literally anything else, and they wouldn't count as absent because their names would appear there, while the teachers could just send them the materials without any proper explanation. What is worse is that this is how they're going to take their exams, unsupervised, with all the information open in other tabs. Thus, we see how the quality of the education declines, since the need for even basic understanding of the topic disappears. Secondly, we can see why studying from the comfort of your home seems nice at first, but this is exactly why they will get less work done. People regard their homes as a place to relax, not to study. For instance, a 2010 study found that half of the kids ages 8 to 18 use some form of media while doing their homework. When faced with a bad status quo like this one, we should aim to improve it, not make it worse, like switching to e-learning would do. Physical school, however, is a place where they know they have to follow certain rules and pay attention out of fear of punishment. Therefore, we can see why classrooms are still better for kids' limited attention spans and why moving online would basically allow kids to do anything but learn. In conclusion, we urge the jury to vote against this poor imitation of school that would just move an already faulty system into an environment that would just accentuate its flaws. We obviously need a reform, but we have proven today why simply moving it online is not the solution.
All right. Thank you. Next up, we'll speak the first speaker from MS2.
Okay, I'll tell you when I'm ready. Okay, I'm ready. Education is the lifeblood of society. According to Aristotle, not only does it equip us with the qualities that we need to lead a fulfilling, objectively good life, but it is also an enriching process in itself. We believe that online learning, both in its synchronous and asynchronous form, is of great benefit to students. We will demonstrate this using two contentions. Our first contention is flexibility and heightened cognitive skills. Online learning is flexible and individualized, which helps students develop important skills. Benjamin Bloom, an American education psychologist, said that it makes absolutely no sense to expect all students to take the same amount of time to achieve the same objectives. He noted that online schooling caters to each student specifically. It allows students to take as long as they need to go through each piece of information and understand everything properly. For instance, if they have a video, they can pause on the most difficult concepts and speed up on the easier ones. Lisa Kurtman noted in 2009 that by allowing a more self-regulated learning experience, online learning helps students develop essential cognitive skills, such as information processing and reasoning. Likewise, a study conducted by Blanton in the 2000s on children showed that online programs improve skills in reading comprehension, grammar, visual intelligence, and technology, which can result in higher achievement. Another study from Dartmouth shows that online learning helps students focus on more concrete details, which is an important skill. Online school, due to its individualized and flexible nature, can also increase retention and efficiency. According to a Brandon Hall study, online learning typically requires 40 to 60% less time than traditional learning. This is because it can be performed asynchronously and whenever the student needs it, which helps workflow. The Research Institute of America found that online learning has really high retention rates, 5 times higher than in traditional education. This is particularly because online learning students have more control over their process, as well as the opportunity to revisit materials when they need it. The impact of online schooling is the fact that by giving students more control over their schedules and experience, it makes them more self-sufficient, and as the studies showed, it improves their skills, efficiency, and retention rates. Our second contention is affordability and environmentalism. Firstly, online courses take away the need to commute, which gives more time, comfort, and money to students. Also, many online courses are completely free of charge. Coursera, for example, offers materials from prestigious universities like Harvard and Yale for free. These materials are also accredited and reliable. Online learning also provides students with the opportunity to have all of their books in an online format. This saves money and reduces the amount of paper used to produce their books. Cartridge World stated that a school has to cut out 600 trees in one single year to produce textbooks. Thus, attending online school would dramatically reduce the amount of trees being cut to produce learning materials. Also, it has been found that online courses equate to an average of 90% less energy and 80% fewer CO2 emissions per student than traditional in-person courses. These aspects have positive consequences. Firstly, online school saves students a lot of money and gives them comfort. Also, it reduces the number of cut trees and CO2 emissions, and this means that it is of great direct benefit for the environment and of great indirect benefit for the student living and depending on that environment. Thank you.
Okay. So if anyone would like to take prep time, each team will get 3 minutes of prep time. If you'd like to take prep time, you may do so. If you would not, then you may enter the 3-minute crossfire between Diana and Antonia.
Oh, no, I'm good if Antonia wants to take prep time.
I don't need any time.
All right.
Okay.
Crossfire begins in 3, 2, 1.
Can I ask the first question?
Sure.
So the studies you told us about, firstly, they were older students. Secondly, they chose this online learning. So how, when this online learning becomes the norm across the country, how do you guarantee that all kids will have this incentive and interest to learn these things? Because you only told us about kids who are already interested.
We had like 5 studies. Did you look each and every one of them to find out on who it was conducted? Because some of them were conducted on preschool kids as well. For example, the one which said that it improves reading skills and information processing, it was conducted on preschool kids as well.
Yes, but was it on a big enough sample so that all those kids didn't those kids choose to do this, or at least their parents? We talk about implementing this nationwide. How do you guarantee that the majority? No, we're not talking
about this. We're talking about whether it benefits students, and we show that it benefits students.
Okay, do you have questions?
Yes, you said that students will use their free time for very harmful purposes, like they'll simply waste it. Do you have any study, any warrant, any survey that shows that, or is it just supposition?
It's not a supposition, it's a clear mechanism we call the social trend, that if a kid gets no immediate reward from an activity, this is how their brain is built, to want to do what offers them quick gratification. Online learning only pays off years later, so they naturally will want to do what gives them pleasure right then. The trophies in video games, the likes on Instagram, and so on. It's a clear mechanism, it's logical thinking, we don't need studies for this.
Okay, so you don't have proof. Also, can I ask the next question? Are you aware that online learning can have games which use that instant gratification mechanism for educational purposes?
Again, I said at the beginning of my speech, when we said the metric of this debate, that we are talking about moving the education system as it is now, with 6 hours of synchronous learning. Pay attention to this, and this doesn't include any games. So we're not talking about educational reform, but about moving our current faulty system into an online environment.
And we said that online learning can refer to both asynchronous and synchronous. So we didn't want to limit the motion to simply synchronous learning. So yeah.
Again, even if you refer to asynchronous learning, how many kids have the incentive to look up videos about science and so on, because they have the chance right now? Why don't they do it right now? Why isn't the majority so informed?
Actually, kids do have the incentive because humans are naturally curious species. We have a need for self-actualization, which is proven by Maslow. And for instance, in quarantine, course sites such as Coursera have seen a significant increase in students who took those courses because they had more time. So if students have time, they will take those courses.
Thank you. Next up will come the 4-minute rebuttal delivered by, I believe, Flavius.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope you can hear me well and clear. I'll take that as an yes. Okay.
Yes, it's okay.
Good. With that in mind, I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Panel. This debate is about online schooling as a norm, as a national norm, okay? We have to judge whether the current educational system would work better in an online environment or not. All that they've justified so far are those children or teenagers who choose to go online. This debate is about online schooling in general terms. That's what we have to play today. With that in mind, 4 points of rebuttal. But before that, we have to understand something very, very important. What we are seeing in this debate is that we justify that the kids and teenagers don't have an incentive to go for something that is productive and for something that is good for their education, because we call this a social trend where kids and teenagers tend to do things that only give them short-term satisfaction. The difference between the teams in this point is that we have one mechanism through which we show you why the kids have others incentive than to go for their education. The problem is that they don't have one single mechanism. All that they've told us is that kids choose. Yeah, they can choose to go online in status quo as well. This topic is about everyone who is going to obligated go into an online environment. With that in mind, 4 points of rebuttal. The first one, that you have flexibility. And again, here is very important to understand that all those 5 studies that they had were about students who actually chosen to go online, okay? That means that this specific minority of students liked and preferred to go online. The problem is that the majority of students don't have this incentive, okay? They tend to do things in their free time, for example, that are about their long-term education and about some short-term satisfaction. So we cannot talk in this debate about those specific cases of students who really choose to do something that is long-term beneficial for them. Second of all, that moving online is going to lead to a better online understanding. And here is something that, again, is happening very well in status quo. Physical schools nowadays have computers, okay? So they are using the online environment in the status quo as well. But here the problem is that they are not comparative at all, because they don't understand that if I am in my room and I don't know, I get to use my PC better, for example, I'm losing something that is very important for my benefit as a human being. The interaction with everyone in school, because without this interaction that we have in normal school, we are not going to be the same good people for the society later. So what we are losing is the interaction, and we want to avoid that in our topic today. Third of all, about the comfort, and here is very, very problematic, because Diana has explained you a clear logical mechanism that show you why the comfort of your room for a teenager and for a kid specifically is associated only with habits that refer to his time to relax, for example, okay? When a kid is in his comfort of his room, he's not going to try to do things that are beneficial for him, okay? Because why is that? Is very simple. I'm tended as a teenager to do things that give me short-term satisfaction. Because if, for example, I have a 10 a.m. a history class, and I hate history because I don't like it, and my classmate tells me that, come on, let's play a video game in this specific hour, I'm going to do that. Because me as a teenager, I don't think on a long-term period. I only think about those habits that give me satisfaction right now, and that is very problematic because we showed you why they don't have an incentive. And fourth of all, that they save trees. Okay, I admit that trees, that we are not going to save the planet, but on the same time we have problems like climate change in status quo as well. So the problem is that we don't get an education. That's what we want to discuss today. So at the end of the day, because we have one mechanism, that's why we urge you to oppose.
All right, now let us see the pro rebuttal.
All right. Judges, I would like to start off by saying that the con team is definitely limiting the motion. May I remind you that the motion we are debating right now in this debate contest is whether online school is beneficial, not whether online schooling should replace on-site schooling. They have totally changed the motion that we are debating so it best fits their speeches. In their first contention, they had no studies showing that students will not want to do something that is beneficial to them, which is school. However, we have come with an international, well-renowned psychological concept of Maslow's pyramid. Now, if you're not aware of what Maslow's pyramid is, it is a pyramid. At the top of this pyramid, it is the need for self-actualization, which is the only thing which leads to an individual self-fulfillment. Therefore, using an actually world-renowned psychological concept, we can definitely tell you that students will wish to improve their knowledge and to attend all these online courses. Furthermore, they mentioned lack of supervision by saying that teachers and parents will not be there to motivate their children. Isn't that the aim of teachers and of legal guardians, to make sure that their children get the best education that they can, to make sure that their children improve as human beings? Therefore, why wouldn't a teacher or a legal guardian actually help their child become more self-sufficient, more responsible? Furthermore, as my colleague mentioned, there are plenty of online games such as Bamboozle or Kahoot, which give these students the instant self-gratification that the enmity mentioned. In their second contention, they mentioned the lenience of online school. However, us as Romanian students, we might be able to vouch to that, but that is not the norm. What proof do you have that online schooling, if it were explored, would not have strict rules, such as the rules that exist in on-site school, for example? Online school isn't necessarily what you experience, it is what can actually be infinitely more beneficial to the students because of these interactive multimedia platforms that they can use to retain information better, and as our studies mention, improve cognitive skills such as memory, perception, attention span, all of these crucial life skills which are going to help them in their career. Furthermore, most of their counter arguments included logical mechanisms. However, are we going to trust these logical mechanisms over studies from MIT, Harvard, Oxford, Google, and all of these other studies that we have mentioned, that we have quoted in our speeches? Judges, we believe we have presented solid counter arguments to what they have presented. We have provided proof. We have provided recent studies which have not only been performed on a minority, they have been performed on high schoolers, on college students, and on preschool students as well, and all of them showed positive improvement. And lastly, I would like to remind you that the CON team is limiting the motion. We are debating online school is beneficial, not online school should replace on-site school. They keep trying to press this narrative that online school is not supposed to replace on-site school, but that is not the motion we are debating here. We are debating where online school is or isn't beneficial. Thank you very much.
All right. Next up, we will have our crossfire between the second speakers, Flavius and Kara, for 3 minutes. So if you'd like to take some prep time.
I'm okay.
Okay, Kara, you're okay?
Yes, definitely.
All right. So crossfire will begin in 3, 2, 1, start.
Okay, so let's understand what is the topic about. Because if we are talking only about children or teenagers who choose to do this, of course it's in their benefit because it's their choice. So we as the CON team would not make any sense there. So you are limiting the motion, not us, because we talk about everyone, not about those who choose, and it's logical that it's in their benefit.
Okay, so basically you agree that people who choose to go to online school is beneficial for them. And you do realize that the motion we are debating includes these people who choose to go to online school.
Yeah, but these people can do this thing in status quo as well. So you have to justify as a pro team today why moving everyone online is going to benefit the current educational system. If you don't do that, I'm sorry, but it's impossible to win on the pro team today.
We are not talking about moving everyone online. We are talking about whether online school is beneficial or not. And we, the Pro team, provided solid arguments backed up by studies which prove that online school is beneficial, not that everybody should be moved to online school.
Okay. Okay, do you have a question or can I go?
No, you can go.
Okay, so please explain me. For a teenager that is going to move from his physical school to his online schooling, why is he going to have, in that time that he, I don't know, saves from not going to his school by the bus, why in that specific time he's going to invest that time and that money, for example, in something that is really productive instead of encouraging our social trend to play video games, for example?
Firstly, let's define productive. I feel like you are implying that productive means they're going to do more schoolwork. However, we have studies backing up that more leisure time leads to overall a better mental health of the individual. Therefore, they're going to be productive even by playing video games, because that is, yes, go ahead.
If you want to talk about online schooling, please understand, panel, that schooling is about learning, not about playing video games and doing extracurricular activities. That's why we name them extracurricular, because they are out of school. Schooling means to history class, maths class, Romanian and English class, and so on and so forth. So that's what a student should learn at school, not something that he can do on his free time. Do you agree on that?
But one of our contention was that online school provides students with more free time because they can pause lessons or go further through lessons at their own pace. And because they have this free time, it is beneficial for them. Don't you agree?
Okay, but can you explain me on this point? Why in that free time that they have, that you suppose it's more, why they're going to do something that is productive, school meaning for their education, not to play video games and meet with their friends?
Like I said, you are implying that the only productive thing a student can do is related to their education, where the fact that they spend time doing music courses, for example, which we have studies proving that children who practice music instruments have better cognitive skills.
In schooling, we should learn.
Okay, thank you. Now, after second crossfire, we will have our summary. Again, if you'd like to take prep time before the summary, which is advisable, please let me know.
Okay, I'll take something like a minute before the crossfire, or 30 seconds.
Before the summary?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, I'm running the time.
Deci mai explică o dată faza asta cu de ce...
Stop your mic. Oprește.
Okay, that's 45 seconds. Would you like more?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I received the text.
You have 2 minutes and 15 seconds left.
Okay. Let me set my timer now in 3, 2, 1. One thing they never responded to is how we're going to take exams. I expect the questions later on the crossfire or whatever. However, I have a couple more responses to their rebuttal and so on. They are limiting the motion, although they accuse us of doing so. We want to talk about online schooling as it's regular school, as school in general. However, they only talk about kids who choose this kind of school, kids who are usually mature. But even if they're younger, they still made that choice, a choice not everyone will have in general. Even if those people choose, due to this flexibility, they're going to be lost among all those people because they're constantly under the impression that they have more free time than they actually do. They told us about that we have no studies. I told you about that 2010 study that told us that 50% of people, of kids ages 8 to 18, use some form of media. Never responded to that and had even there to say we don't have the studies that people are distracted. Now, moving to three important questions, I want you to ask yourself at the end of this debate: who had the more reasonable approach and the more likely outcome? And we explained to you through this logical mechanism we call the social trend, how the kid has no incentive to learn since it offers them no immediate gratification. Like video games offer them fun, for example, since school pays off only years later. Therefore, we cannot risk this. We have this certainty, so we cannot ignore it for the sake of the possibility that some kids might learn. Because if kids wanted to learn, they have free time in the present. So why don't we have a society of geniuses, since most kids have access to internet and books or whatever? We wish we lived in the pro-teams world, but unfortunately we don't. So we win this first point. Secondly, when does the kid learn more? Because whether they like it or not, they need to learn. They never responded to how they're going to take their exams. So we're assuming that the kid could just copy paste their answers from the internet onto the test sheet, since this is faster, easier, and it's logical why a kid would choose such a thing. So even if we have a bare minimum of education in the present, it disappears in the online schooling. So we strip school of their very purpose. Thirdly, whose side helps more children? And again, they limited the motion while accusing us of doing this. They talked about kids who choose, kids who are already interested in school and need that extra time for school. But most kids will say they need for developing their, I don't know, gaming abilities and so on. Even if we benefit these students, we are throwing under the bus a huge minority of kids that are disinterested. We cannot risk this, we cannot exchange these two groups of people, since it would not be fair. We cannot gamble with kids' education and just hope they will learn, because we know they won't, as we explained to you.
Thank you. Now for the pro team, a 3-minute summary speech. If you'd like to take prep time, which is advisable. Yeah?
Yes, I would like to take 1.5 minutes.
Okay, I'll run the clock. Okay, that's 1:30. Would you like more?
Maybe like 20 seconds.
Of course, no problem.
Okay.
That's 2 minutes, just letting you know.
I'm done now. Let me just start my timer. Great. Okay. Firstly, my colleague said the other team is clearly limiting the motion. We are not comparing online school to traditional school. We're not saying that it should replace traditional school. We're simply debating whether it is beneficial to students. We did prove it through our studies, but they did nothing to prove that it is detrimental. Also, they said they used some sort of psychological mechanisms which were not proven by any sort of study, and which are just another word for pure supposition. However, we said about the need for self-actualization included in Maslow's psychology, and this means that if students will have the opportunity, they will use that extra time to better themselves and their knowledge. Again, they said the only study they have is the one with media, that 50% of students use media, but that does absolutely nothing to enlighten us. They also said that students will always choose self-gratification. Again, where's their study? And secondly, online platforms can use that instinct to the benefit of the student. Games like Kahoot, where you just put in answers and get almost instantaneous outcomes, use this impulse for self-gratification, instant gratification, and turn it to an educational purpose. Also, we would like to introduce another study done by Harvard, which says that regular online games and exercises used for educational purposes can strengthen memory and a lot of cognitive skills. Also, with regard to examinations, students can be examined in the verbal form with cameras on, and there can be specialized platforms for exams. For instance, the Cambridge language test had a special platform this year in which you could not get out of that test screen. You could not just access the internet, and you had to show your hands, like incline the camera for them to see your hands, to see that you're not cheating. And this really does a lot to prevent cheating and get accurate results in an examination. Also, we demonstrated that online school heightens cognitive abilities such as attention and to concrete details, reading comprehension, visual intelligence, information processing. They did absolutely nothing to counter this. We had reliable resources as well. Also, we said that as the online environment is quite self-regulated and self-paced, it heightens retention rates and efficiency. Again, they did not counter this. Judges have demonstrated that online school can do wonders, not only for the student's intellect, but also for the environment that the student lives in and depends on. Again, they did not counter the environmental argument. With these in mind, one cannot in good faith deny that online schooling benefits students. Thank you.
All right, with the summary speeches complete, it is now time for the grand crossfire. So all 4 debaters have the opportunity to put their mics on and ask each other questions. If everyone is ready, we can begin soon. Does anyone need prep time? No. All right. So grand crossfire lasts 3 minutes and will begin in 3, 2, 1, start.
According to the English vocabulary, do we agree on the fact that schooling is a different word from learning?
Well, why limit it? I mean, schooling is not identical to school.
No, schooling means me to go to school. You know that institution school where I go and I learn. Online learning means that I can open my PC to learn in my free time whatever I want. But schooling means to go to school. So online schooling is played, so this, concept of online schooling is played in the current educational system, but in the online environment. So I think it's clear right now. Can we play on this?
Okay, let's tweak. Okay, so can you show me the definition which proves irrevocably that it is just limited to school and it excludes courses and stuff like that?
I just know that schooling is another word from learning. Schooling means to go to school. Learning means to learn
so whatever you want. Do you have a question? So you're basing such a crucial question on your pure knowledge. That's all. No source.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, well, you said that there is no supervision in an online environment. or really little. Are you aware that there can be synchronous education in which there's an online class with the teacher? Or are you aware that the guardian can motivate and supervise the student? How do you respond to those?
No. I am aware of the fact that when I'm at online schooling, I can stay in the Zoom room with my name there, but I can pretend that my camera isn't working and I can play Counter-Strike on my PC, and I'm not paying attention to the history or to the math hours. That's a logical online environmental mechanism. Okay, I want to ask you.
So, can I ask
please.
one thing? Okay, don't you think that teachers can actually somehow fix this thing by asking students random questions throughout the course to make sure they pay attention and somehow find out who is slacking?
Yeah, but they're doing this in the normal school, in the physical school as well, and then kids look on, I don't know.
And what's the matter if they're doing it in the physical school?
But, look, so the idea is that I can pay attention whether I want or not, but it's more logical to do things that give me short-term satisfaction. They never interacted with that, so it's fine. But the last point, if you really need a statistic, can you explain me why students are thankful when they get a 5 to pass the class? Can we understand that they are not motivated to learn more?
Is there any warrant for this? Do you have a study, or is it again pure supposition? Like, we had a concept by a famous psychologist, the self-actualization and the desire for knowledge. You have absolutely nothing.
Okay.
That's time. Okay.
Sorry.
So, CT1, you have 2 minutes and 15 seconds left of prep time. And since this is the last speech of the round, I suggest you take all of it.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to.
I'm just going to run the clock and let you know when your time ran out.
Thank you. I think I'm ready.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right. So that was 45 seconds. So you have used half of your prep time and you would like to begin the final focus.
Yeah, let me count it down.
All right.
So if all the judges are ready, I can go. Good.
Start.
So for the last time in this camp, let's go in 3, 2, 1. I'm starting. So starting from the vocabulary that schooling, it's another word from learning, all they've demonstrated, all their studies and everything that, I don't know, meant constructive points for them were based on Harvard, Cambridge, I don't know, studies that make a reference to students who really choose to do online learning. But you know what's the difference? That they can choose to do this in status quo as well. They can choose to do this in normal school as well. It's only an idea of choice, and it's logical that if that's the motion, the topic today, we have no sense as team opposition. We have to discuss this as a normal thing. With that in mind, the older case would be perfect, and I really liked how they debated, only if they explained one premise. Why moving online on normal schooling is going to make the students to invest their time, their money, their energy, and whatever in something that is really productive for their education. Otherwise, without this thing explained, maybe they had the perfect constructive points. But without this thing explained, it's impossible to win on the pro team today. Okay, but unlikely, despite from them, we had one mechanism that proved you this, and that is a social trend, or how we call it. Social trend means that students and kids are tempted to do things that give them short-term satisfaction. And when we really think that we've proven you, why it's logical that a student, if he doesn't like, for example, history class, he can very well pass the class with a 5, okay? He's not going to have the incentive to really stay in that Zoom with his camera on, to pay attention to his teacher. He's going to play video games because that's what gives him or her satisfaction in that specific moment. But moreover than that, because they've never answered to one, why we don't have an incentive to do this or to learn more. Secondly, how are you going to get exams? Third of all, why do teachers are going to have the incentive to learn to deliver their students more? We think that at the end of this tournament, we urge you one more time to oppose.
All right, thank you, Flavius. And last speaker of the tournament.
Yes.
Cara, Medeea, Șandru, 2-minute final focus. You have a minute left of prep time, so if you'd like, I could run the clock for you.
Nah, I'm okay, I'll just go ahead.
All right.
Why should you vote for us? Judges, we believe we have presented irrefutable arguments. Firstly, the opposition talked about lack of productivity. However, we have also proven with multiple studies from prestigious sources that online school actually increases productivity. Therefore, this is not a valid argument as to why online school is not beneficial. Furthermore, they mentioned the lack of supervision, which we have counter-argued. Secondly, they mentioned the lenience of online school, which probably comes from personal experience. However, it is not the norm. Throughout the beginning of this debate, they limited the motion by saying that online school should not replace on-site school. Then they accused us of limiting the motion for talking about a certain category of students, which is untrue. Even if we do talk about a certain category, we have still proven that to that category, online schooling is beneficial, which may I remind you, judges, is what we are debating here. Honorable judges, online school gives students the opportunity to have a flexible schedule, which results in them achieving crucial life skills, as our studies have mentioned. They can pause lessons to better understand them or retake them to further engrave the information in their memory. We have studies catering to not only university students, yet also others such as preschool and high school students, where online learning heightens their reading and language skills. Judges, you should vote for us, for we have provided solid evidence, not logical reasoning to our claims. Secondly, judges, students spend thousands of books which they can easily find online. They can access all of them in online format, which not to mention the improvements in comfort, no more lost books, and it's easy to have them all in one device. Furthermore, judges, we are offering you a chance to save millions of trees yearly, reducing 85% of energy use and carbon dioxide emissions for each student. Judges, you should vote for us. We have better arguments and a higher impact on society. A society in which students actually enjoy school and in which hundreds of millions of trees are not cut for books which we can easily find online. Thank you.
All right. Let's have a round of applause.